Alafia, power is ultimate. Abaru, Oboye, Obosheshe. Faith that all is well. Faith that you're finding this video in good health and good peace. I'll be your instructor, Baba Kawafi Jako Moyoka. And I just want to speak about the Egunguns. Once again, we do not claim to have the ultimate tongue, meaning what we have to say is not the only thing to say. We do not have the infinite knowledge. And I say this because when we speak about something like Eguns, when we speak about something like Egunguns, it gets so complex. When we speak about Yoruba, we speak about Ifa Ashishe, or we speak about so-called Diaspora, when we're speaking about Lukumi, or we speak about Santeria, Camoble. Each and every class, or each and every branch, or each and every culture has its own type of understanding about this spirit. So all respect and honor towards each and every one's beliefs about this spirit. One question that came through is there cults? Everything is a cult. Let's just get the demonic veil of what a cult is, right? A cult is nothing but a religion that hasn't had enough followers on the mainstream or public eye, right? So let's just get the demonic veil of what a cult is out of our understanding. But yes, there is many so-called quote-unquote cults, specifically as far as Eguns. When we get down to like South America, we get down to Cuba and Peru and different things like that, where they have different Egun cults. But we're speaking about a spiritual system that we all share, right? So when we speak about Egungun, what are we speaking about? We're speaking about, in layman's terms, for everyone who is late catching up, we're speaking about ancestors. Okay? Now, when you go to the description, the most old description of it, or I'm not going to say the oldest and the more traditional description of it, Yoruba, Ifa, Asheshe, you get the bones, right? But understand that it gets different because you might hear us say Egun this, Egun that. I'm dealing with my Eguns, et cetera, right? Sometimes we're speaking about a spirit, right? We speak about an exact ancestor sometimes, but sometimes you hear the Egungun, and this is when they're speaking about the masquerade figure that comes out during Egungun festivals and ceremonies. This is usually dressed up in colorful, most likely red cloth, and it dances around and it's festive and it's a part of the ceremony, and it's for respect and honor of those spiritual planes and of those spiritual deities, and also of elders that's alive now, because they're very serious in our culture about paying respect to not only the living ancestors and dang for sure the transitional ancestors. Okay, so there's many different understandings of what Egun or Egungun is and could be. The thing that we need to understand is that Egun is, once again, the main traditional description is the bones. So we're speaking about the ancestors. Many traditions believe, once again, we do not claim to have the ultimate tongue, but many traditions and different cultures and branches of the cultures believe that Egun is a Orisha. It's a spirit. It's a deity of itself. Many believe that this is the spirit of all other ancestors. This is the Orisha of all ancestors, right? So all of our ancestors belong to a certain spiritual plane once they become ancestors. They believe the spirit that holds that frequency is this Orisha, is Egun. Okay? Sometimes you might hear them say, Ara Egun. Ara Egun, they most likely are speaking about a quote-unquote guest from heaven, a spirit, deity from Orun, right? From this heavenly ancestral plane. So they're speaking, I wanted to break down this because they're definitely speaking about a deity. They're definitely speaking about a spirit. But we must understand about ancestral planes. We must understand about ancestral realms, that these are not only places, but they, in the energy total, they could end up becoming a quote-unquote god. Some believe that it's a portal and a gate, and this is when they start speaking about Ulurun and different things like that. The gate, the portal, is an energy of its own. There's not a gatekeeper there. It's a spirit of its own. But Egun is the bones. Okay? Egun is the bones of all of the ancestors. When we get to what Igbe is, right? When we start talking about Igbe, when we start talking about Eguns, we start about talking about spiritual doubles. I want to speak about Osa Meji that starts speaking about this quote unquote spiritual double, this spiritual world that exists. Okay? This Odu is one of the main Odus that I think about when we speak about Eguns, because they start speaking about Egun or the ancestors in a more different type of fold of energy. Okay? So we got to keep this in mind. In Lukumi, in the diaspora, they say Oru, Ogun. You might hear them say Oru or Igun. They're speaking about the words for, or the words to, or the words of an ancestral energy or ancestral time. So maybe they could be talking about songs, prayers, or rike, or just communication with this Igun. Sometimes you hear Otura Naku. Otura Naku, they're speaking about the female and the male, the differences between the deity. And once again, you highly find these terms used in Lagumi, but they're kind of blessed and notified, all over the cultures. But once again, we don't claim to have the ultimate tongue, so we can't exactly say that you might run into a culture who don't believe these or use these terms. Not exactly believe them, but use the terms. Now, going back to the masquerade version, when we speak about the red cloth, certain individuals believe that deities, other than like a Su, other than Shango, you should not use the red cloth for them. This is highly of an understanding of like, different people would say Obatala, right? Obatala you should only use the red for Obatala to symbolize the blood of birth, symbolize the womb, right? And it's kind of the same thing with Egun, right? Like Egun is alive, so it is accepted for it to be wrapped in red cloth. Even when you see the Egungun stick, which we use the Egungun stick, and we use different woods and different feathers, and they wrap the Egungun stick most of the time in the red cloth, and this is because it's the representation for the blood, because Egun is not a deity that has went to this afterworld and is no longer exist. Egun is a living deity. It is a experiencing a vibrating deity. So this is why the red cloth is accepted specifically, even highly accepted when you see the masquerade Egungun form. Now also, the red could be a representation for Shango, and I will speak about why it could be a representation of Shango in a moment. But I just want to stay on path. Now, they have different names for what they could call the kingdom of Aku. Who did we say Aku was? We said Aku was death. Death of its own is an energy of frequency and an Oba. What do I mean by Oba? I mean king. So, of course, there has to be a kingdom for Aku. We're speaking about the afterworld. We're speaking about a ancestral world, right? So, Aku is sometimes even mentioned or honored even to a certain degree in certain cultures, along with Egun. So, and it's always mentioned when we start speaking about Egun. Ashe. Now, to keep in mind when we start speaking about when I spoke about the Tiha de Egun, Tiha de Egun, speaking about the towel that they use in Cuban Lukumi to feed Egun. The reason why they use that towel, just to make sure we cover our details of pen notes. The reason why they use this tile is because it's about earth, right? So going back to Egungun stick, right? When we start using certain woods, when we start using feathers, when we start using, even if we're using shells, right? We even the simplest cowrie shell. We're speaking about, and you must have heard me say this a lot by now. We are using items that have been known to man for hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, right? These items have been in use with humans for thousands of years, and we get these items from the earth, right? And produced from the earth, or the animals, or the clay that comes from the earth. Okay, so we have to remember where the energy lies, and I always wanted to keep that in mind, because when I spoke to different babas and lakumi and different things like that, they definitely tell me to remember that's where the voltage lies, right? So when we deal with just getting back on track, when we deal with Igun, we have to understand about their need, their want, and their relationship that they have with children. So this is why the children, quote unquote, see the spirits. This is why children, quote unquote, say they see grandparents. My son, specifically says he sees, my grandmother and different things, like our grandmother and different things like that. The reason why children ends up seeing these spirits and deities so much is simply because that they have the Eguns, which what the spirit that we call Egun, the Orisa that we call Egun, has a specific relationship with children. See, to keep the vibration of and the ancestral realm healthy, more children must be born so more of us can transition out of this life. That is how the ancestral realm becomes healthy. That's how ancestors are eventually achieved, right? These spiritual soul goals become achieved. A lot of the times people have, once again, we don't claim to have the ultimate tongue, but a lot of people believe that you live this life and then you go to a medium life before you can transition into what we call Orun, or you can transition to what we call heaven. You come and you have to do so-called ancestral duties. You have to do spirit duties and spirit on earth duties, not only in the human form but also in the ancestral form as well. So when we see children seeing ancestors, when we see children cooperating or communicating with these ancestors or these deities more high than we can on a different voltage scale, is because they have a divine connection with them. They are still receiving downloads so they can go through this transition as a human, and they go through the transition once Aiku reaches, right? Or once we reach death. So that's something to keep in mind. There's nothing to exactly be afraid of when your child sees different spirits or say they speak into ancestors. I want to take time to speak about because I gave you an Odu, and there's many different Odus, right? I gave you a couple Odus. I want to speak about Apatiki, and they speak about Egun and Oro, right? Egun and Oro were brothers, and Egun being a loving and kind and guiding energy that it is. It says, before we go down to Earth, let me go down there and check. I want to make sure everything is fine. If everything is fine, you can come down and we can go about our festivities and our agendas. So Oro said, "Oh, okay." So Egun goes down, and remember, Ogun is this energy and this spirit, and it has red drapes on and red cloth on, and it dances around beautifully, and it has such a connection with different people in the village. The elders has a connection with this deity. The children has a connection with this deity, and he's just such a loving being. He having a ball, right? Like he's down there, he's kicking it. So time goes on and nighttime falls on him, and Oro scratching his head. He's like, "Man, dang, where my brother at, man? What's going on?" So he goes down. He goes down. He waits till nightfall and he goes down. He's tired of waiting. And when he is ascending down, he sees Aegon dancing and having a festive, just a festive time. And Oro screams out to Egun and says, "Hey, brother, you forgot about me." And Egun says, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. I'm down here. They love me. They love my language. They love my vibration. They love my garments. I end up forgetting. I'm having a good time. I end up forgetting. Come on down and join us." But Oro was so, blinded at this moment. He was so angry at this moment. He started really descending down and fearful, in a fearful tone. And Egun got scared and he ran into the house. So, all the humans on Earth, they like, hold on, if Egun just got scared and ran away, if this spiritual deity just ran away from this other deity that's coming down on us, this deity must be something bad. So, everyone else ran away. And Oro have got this reputation of being this, this demonic or lower vibrational energy that only comes out on the people at night, right? So this is how they got the day and the night split between Egun and Oro. But I just wanted to bring up that Badiki to say that Egun is mentioned many different times, and he has different elements of itself when we speak about Oro, right? I also want to speak about Oya and Shango. Again, I spoke about Shango. It could and most likely is a reason why Egun is accepted for his red tone and the usage of his red cloth. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, soon. Sometimes you hear this, and this is highly, they speak about this in Santeria, but oh yeah, oh yeah, soon they speak about the mother of the nine, right? And we know that Oya had nine stillborns, and these stillborns or these children kind of end up became the guardians, the protectors, the gateway between the cemetery and life, right? Between the world of Aiku and life, right? And we understand that nine palos, nine sticks, is used sometimes in certain Egungun sticks. And this is where it comes from because they believe that in certain Badikis and certain traditions and certain folds of the stories of Egun, that Egun is actually the son of Oya and Shango, right? So sometimes you hear Shango as Oba Egun. They speak about Oba Egun, the king of Egun. And this is because Shango is Egun's father in many different statements. So they say that's why Egun is able to dress in red. But in then Oyeye Yasun, they're speaking about a form of Egun. Now remember that there's I've heard of exactly four different forms of Egun. But Isun Egun, when you hear Isun Egun, they're speaking about that son of Oyeye Sun. They're speaking about that son of Oya and Shango, which highly is the Egun that we know of now. Or the next version after that is the Egungun, right? Is the masquerade version of what we know now. But going back to my main statements before, when we use the term Egun, we could just be speaking about a specific spirit or ancestor, but we need to understand that it's so complex when we say Egun. We could be speaking about a lot of different forms of energy or a lot of different forms of this so-called Orisa or deity when we find it in nature. Okay? So I just want to take time to speak about this because it's so complex and it's so deep. Just like Igbe, when we start speaking about these spiritual devils or these spiritual mates or these spiritual realms of Orun and heaven, we have to understand what different energies is at place so we have a deeper understanding, not only of the cultures of Ifa, Lukumi, Santeria, all ATRs, but of self. What is happening daily, right? What is going on? Why am I receiving these type of spirits? Why am I receiving these certain turnouts in life? It could be because you are not appeasing different things like Igbe. You're not appeasing different things like Igun. So they believe like when you break bones, this is them Igun telling you that you need to appease Igun, right? When certain things break in the house, this is you need to appease Igun. And there's many different other signs that they will tell you that you need to appease Egun. A lot of the times you might receive it in a reading. You might receive it back in one of your odus that you need to appease one of these spirits like Igbe or Egun. So this is just something that's, always kept in mind, something that's always important to keep at the forefront when we speak about moving forward in these cultures. Because a lot of people like to jump over and go straight to my head Orisa, this guardian Orisa, and that's fine. But don't forget about the ancestors, Ashay. So, faith that you have retained something in this video, faith that you have retained something in your notes, Ashay. Go out there and appease those Egunguns, right? Make sure you get those readings and you abide to those ebos and you give the correct ebos and you give the correct offerings and harimus to these spirits and deities so you can start opening up the path and open up your road of success and achievement in Ori and building Ewe Bele the best, having the best experience that you can as a human at this point until we transition into Orderun. So, powers ultimate families, Abaru, Opoye, Oposheshe.